This past Tuesday, Hillary Clinton further cemented her lead over Bernie Sanders in the 2016 Democratic primary with victories in Pennsylvania, Maryland, Connecticut, and Delaware. She's won 23 contests to Bernie's 17. She has 1,644 pledged delegates to Sanders' 1,355, and that's without superdelegates adding in, which, of course, is an entirely different can of worms I don't want to talk about right now. However, Bernie Sanders has pledged to take his campaign all the way to the Democratic National Convention this summer. His supporters are as vocal as ever, but the question remains, can Bernie Sanders actually win the Democratic nomination for president? Let's settle this. Welcome back to The Loop. First, let's just say it. This election cycle and the primary system in general is basically the worst. Voters feel disenfranchised and angry, and no matter who you support for president, there's someone out there telling you that you're wrong, and in rare cases, they actually have some pretty fair points about why you're wrong, and that's excruciating, right? Bernie supporters feel this intensely because their candidate of choice seems to be getting a raw deal every which way. Much like Donald Trump, Sanders' candidacy was considered a joke by the political and media establishment for months. And while Trump dominated the political conversation during that time, essentially giving him free publicity, Sanders had to fight for recognition. No matter what strides he's made since then, no matter how many victories or how many millions of dollars of donations made to his campaign, 44 million in the last month alone, establishment Democrats have seen Sanders' candidacy as a problem, not a potential solution. And that leads to fun things like Hillary supporters posting pornography to pro-Bernie Facebook groups and then reporting those groups for having pornography on them, getting them shut down. Isn't that so fun and productive for our collective political discourse? And yeah, I know that there are Bernie bros who are also similarly aggressive, and Trump bros, and Cruz bros. I'm not trying to pigeonhole anybody here. We're all angry, and we're all sad, and we all want an answer. Back to the question at hand. Can Bernie Sanders win the nomination? Honestly, the answer is most likely no. And I'm saying that as someone who genuinely loves Bernie Sanders' ideals and a great deal of his track record. I'm not yet another part of the shadowy cabal of figures who are robbing him of the presidency. Nor am I naive enough to think that people in positions of power aren't actively trying to prevent him from winning. You could actually make that argument for any of the current candidates for president except maybe Kasich, because he's old and white and kind of inoffensive and he looks a bit like a grandpa. This is a picture of him eating a pork chop. But the truth is that for all the strength that Bernie Sanders' political revolution still garners, he can't beat Hillary Clinton to the 2,383 delegate count that would ensure his nomination. Clinton is currently beating Sanders in every poll for California, the largest prize left on the board with nearly 500 available delegates. And even if Bernie Sanders won every other state, Hillary's delegate count would still be unassailable, as candidates draw delegates even from states that they lose. Just a reminder, she's beating him right now by 289 delegates. Sanders can possibly earn enough delegates to prevent Clinton from winning the nomination outright so that he can make his case at the convention, or even run as an independent candidate in the general election this fall. But even he admitted to CNN's Andrew Cuomo that he has a, quote, narrow path to victory. And yes, if we have to talk about superdelegates, and I guess we have to talk about superdelegates, they'll vote by and large for Hillary, regardless of their constituents' interests, because the Democratic Party rewards those that back the establishment. And yeah, that's unfair and really sad. That's the country that we live in, and I don't have a better answer for that, and that just depressed me completely. But please don't make that the reason that you don't vote. You need to vote. It's so important, please vote. So why is he still in the race? Why wouldn't he drop out if even he recognizes that his odds are slimmer than Kate Moss on a cleanse? That's the thing, Bernie Sanders didn't get into the presidential race to win a campaign. He said from the very beginning that he wanted to start a political revolution to make the people of America rise up against a corrupt political system backed by a handful of billionaires and millionaires. And the response to his campaign has forced establishment candidates like Hillary Clinton to respond to, and even in some cases back his ideas, such as a $15 minimum wage and opposing the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So even if he has little chance of winning the nomination, is Bernie Sanders' candidacy already a victory? Should he run as an independent, or will that tip the scales away from Clinton and towards Trump or Cruz? To break down these and some of the other big political highlights of the week, I invited my friend John Iadarola of the Young Turks and Think Tank to SourceFed Studios for a one-on-one sit-down. Hey John, thanks for joining me.
Anytime, man.
Yeah.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So the big topic that we're talking about this week is whether or not Bernie Sanders can actually win the Democratic nomination. And I'm of the personal opinion that the facts are the facts, and the odds of him winning it are very slim to none.
Where do you place them?
I place them in the beyond crazy category.
I place them in the 4 to 6% range.
4 to 6%?
And by I place them, I mean just I'm directly reading what the betting markets are saying, and they still think that there's like a 4 to 6% chance.
Okay,
Yeah.
which is
low.
Which is small.
Yeah.
Like in the grand scheme of small things, it's a small.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's also, that represents his chances of winning electorally in the typical fashion, as
Right.
in he can get a high enough percentage of the delegates going forward to actually secure the nomination. But of course, that's not the only way that he could win.
Right.
There are
Well,
ways outside of that.
Well, obviously, one way to do it is to just make sure that Hillary cannot get the 2,300 some odd delegates she would need to secure the nomination, so we have a contested convention.
Yeah.
But
Which is, that in of itself, it's difficult.
Right.
Because she can conceivably, like, first of all, let me preface this by saying that I'm a gigantic Bernie Sanders supporter. I want Bernie Sanders to win. I won't say through any means possible, but through most means possible. But as you said, facts are the facts, and she could lose every single primary and caucus from now on, and as long as she didn't lose it overwhelmingly, she would still get enough delegates.
right. I feel like a lot of people, especially like young people, don't necessarily realize that even when a candidate loses a caucus or loses a primary, they're still accruing delegates.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And especially on the Democratic side. So the Republicans have set up their primary schedule so that on the back end, it's almost all winner take all or winner take most. And so if you're leading by even a little bit, you can just sweep up all the delegates. And we've seen Trump do that recently. The 5 for 5 that he went on, he got 99% of the delegates. The Democratic Party doesn't have that. And so they've got a system where it's all proportional. And so if you win 51 to 49, then you've won technically.
Yeah,
But if you're behind,
technically.
you're not really winning, unfortunately.
Right.
It sucks, but that's the way that it's set up.
Isn't there a victory in itself that his political revolution has caused a major conversation about a lot of his core topics, and even caused Hillary Clinton in some cases to move her stance closer to Bernie's?
Do you think there is?
I think that, at the very least, like the $15 minimum wage, that's something. I think that
Which she still doesn't formally support.
Formally.
She theoretically
supports it.
Yeah.
For me personally, it's just the fact that we're having these discussions, even the fact that as many of my peers and those younger than me are this galvanized is a big deal, especially in a world where I would say anger and apathy far outweigh empathy or joy or excitement about anything.
Especially
politically.
political news.
Right. But in 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, we're going to see a major shift, and potentially, I hate to beg the question, but do you think the two-party system will die out as a cause of this election?
I don't think that it will. I think that the parties are more flexible and more fluid than people like to give them credit for.
Yeah.
And the Democratic Party will be changed as a result of this. Like if the young people are supporting overwhelmingly someone like Bernie Sanders now, then in 4 years there might not be a Bernie Sanders candidate, but candidates are going to have a ton of pressure on them to be more like a Bernie Sanders. And young people who will someday run for office, they're seeing the appeal of this figure. And they may not run for 8 years or 12 years, but someday they'll be out there.
And they'll be like, I can do that and I can do it better.
Hopefully. I hope that they can. But in terms of the two-party system breaking down, there's such significant structural challenges to that. The way that our elections are run is designed to make it almost impossible for a third party to win in a national sense anyway.
Right.
And that's
so you're
historically
saying
been true.
Bernie should not run as an independent?
I think that if he wants to and he thinks that he can win, I have a lot of faith in him and I would trust him. I don't think that he will run as a third-party candidate.
Okay.
Whether he should or not, I could be swayed. I honestly don't have a very strong opinion.
Fair enough. John, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much
Anytime,
for joining
man.
us.
I like talking about politics.
Where can the people find you?
So I host every week on youtube.com/The Young Turks. We talk about politics and news every day. And I also have my channel, youtube.com/Think Tank, which is a little bit lighter infotainment channel.
Super. Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure, and hopefully we'll have you back soon.
Thank you. That'd be great.
Please go check out Think Tank and check out The Young Turks, obviously. John, it's It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
So that's it, gang. I hope you enjoyed this very special edition of The Loop. Big thanks to John Iadarola for stopping by. Now, I want to know, what did you think of this new format? We want to bring The Loop back as a weekly show, and I want to be very transparent with you. We're figuring out what works best for this show, and I want to know, what kinds of stories do you want me to talk about on here? Do you like the politics stuff? Do you want more science news? Do you want more global news? Let me know down in the comments. Tweet at me. I'm very, very open to your ideas. I want this to be your show as much as mine. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week, and until next time, you're in The Loop.
Got a chance to see the movie last night. It was quite a lot of fun.
Oh, good.
Pretty good, right?
Yeah.
So go ahead and take all of your clothes off.
All right.
Build around.